has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for choosing Pan-African Television. And of course, we are live on Radio Gold. Well, this morning we're also live on social media. We're on Facebook, Pan-African Television, YouTube, Pan-African Television. Two thoughts came to mind Thursday as I sat and watched the tributes being paid to Dr. David Pery. There are two things he always had an issue with. In fact, when I host the Gold Morning Conversation, he was listening, and somebody says, the neutrals. He always had one rule: there are no neutrals in politics. Nobody is a neutral in politics. The politics is about interest. As long as the person has an interest, the person cannot be a neutral. Then the second one is when a politician is speaking and says, this is not politics. His view is that everything is politics. There's nothing that's not politics. And sometimes I would throw in the idea of the person was trying to say, this is not partisan. He says, no, you are even getting that one wrong. He was a man of very strong conviction. And this week, I was excited to be part of, it was a somber, a reflective moment when we're watching him on the screen, when the socialist movement paid tribute to Dr. David Pery. Well, it's one of the issues we're talking about. But first, we'll take you to Parliament, because it's quite interesting things are happening in Parliament. The Speaker has set up a committee to go into the happenings at the vetting committee on the 30th of January 2025. Well, the committee started its work. Then the minority withdrew, and they've since refused to be part of the work of the committee. They've labeled the chairman of the committee unfit to chair the committee. Their reason, that the chairman once said during the time when they were fighting over seats in the dying mess of the Nana Addo administration, that if somebody sits on his seat, he will beat the person up. So he is a purveyor of violence and cannot be the chair of the seat. The person who occupies the seat. The minority leader has further gone on to say that they are against the airing of the work of the committee. They've also raised the issue of the Privileges and Immunity Committee being formed to deal with the matter. But in the meantime, the Speaker has reversed the suspensions after apologies were made on the floor of Parliament. So we'll go into the work of the ad hoc committee thus far, because now only the majority members are doing the work. And no member of the minority has either continued as a member of the committee or appeared before the committee to tell their side of the story, the alleged bias. And then we'll also talk about the committee that has been put in place, led by Professor George T.K. Odro, which will be looking into education and educational reforms. He says there is no aspect of education that will be left untouched, from the basic level all the way to the tertiary level. Everything will be on the table. We'll have a conversation on that, and perhaps we'll conclude with short tributes to Dr. David Pery, as we remember the man ahead of his final farewell. I am Sena, Nombo, and once again, welcome to the Mother World Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We say it as it is here. In the end, we'll leave you better educated. On the show, as always, Kwesi Pratt Jr., who is General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. Always exciting to hear his thoughts on the issues that plague Ghana. Seems repetitive most of the time. And also a member of the Movement for Change, a regular on this show, lawyer Andrew Appiah-Dankwa, also joins us this morning. And for the first time this year, I'm seeing Ambassador Zita Saba Benson, former Ghana ambassador to the Czech Republic. Ambassador, good morning, and a happy new year to you. I know it's a little belated, but... Yeah. And we'll also be joined by the Deputy Majority Leader, Honorable George Kweku Rikisegan will join us in studio to complete our panel for today. Once again, thank you very much. You're a big part of this show. Do share your comments with us on Facebook, YouTube, and also using our WhatsApp and text message line. We're always grateful to you. Well, let's start the show by going to the work of the ad hoc committee, the committee set up to look into what happened in Parliament, and of course the issues of the apology and apology being accepted and everything also comes up. And this morning, let me start with Ambassador. Ambassador, good morning once again.
Good morning, Sena. Good morning, colleagues.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning to viewers as well. The vetting committee, so far as we have seen it, for me has been very rowdy, and this is mostly led by the minority in Parliament. And I think I can understand why they are doing that, for their own purposes. We all know why the ad hoc committee was set up. They went rowdy, they destroyed stuff in Parliament that belongs to government. And so some of them were even suspended, and the committee was set up to investigate. And I also know that on the first day of the committee meeting, they boycotted the meeting. And like you rightly said, they have refused to be part of it. The vetting process itself, there has to be an aim to it, to find out the person's competence, what they bring on board, and check their background and everything. But from what I have seen so far, it looks like the minority uses the vetting process as a form of revenge for losing the election. So if you were very vocal and you expose them during the elections, then you tend to become a victim for them, because they use that platform to get their personal revenge on you, to humiliate you. And this is not the first time this is happening. I recall that when we came to power in 2009, during Ama Benuado's vetting, the MPP did the same thing to her. They humiliated her and made her apologize for things that she had said. But you can force someone to apologize, but it doesn't change the fact that you did what the person said you did, unless of course the person is lying. So the vetting itself has become a platform for arm twisting of candidates or nominees who have been nominated to take certain positions. And we saw that with Sam George's nomination and Okudjeto's nomination, because these two gentlemen were very vocal during the whole campaign. And I believe that it was during the process of one of such cantankerous vettings that this whole thing erupted and turned violent. Members of Parliament are supposed to be, role models. People are watching. There are young men and women who are looking up to us as leaders and who also want to join Parliament. And there we have members of Parliament, someone like Anodompre, saying that turn break the tables, and they all follow, break tables, break the microphones that they use to work, and people were watching. It was appalling. It was disgusting. But I'm not surprised, Sena. Some of them during this election, I've had the opportunity to work closely with them. I personally was collation agent in Sawam Medwajiri. And from the very first day I entered in Sawam on Thursday, the special voting, I saw the nature and character of Anodompre. Before the election started, actually when the special voting started, he picked the chair and came to sit right in between the voting booths where, the voters were going to vote. I raised a query to the Electoral Commissioner. They told him to get up from there because it's not allowed. He refused to. So that kind of behavior that I saw from him from the day of special voting right through collation day when we were collating at Nsawam around 4 a.m. and he brought in military men to, and I wouldn't say they are military men, they were armed men. And then all I heard were gunshots, you know, and then we all started running. The collation came to an end. They scattered all the EC papers, and that is why the EC did not have pink sheets for Nsawam Medwajiri. And that is why we ended up at Tesano. And then we took it to court because EC did not have their pink sheets because it had been destroyed around 4 a.m. when the armed men came in led by the MP. Now, NDC doesn't have all their pink sheets. MPP doesn't have all their pink sheets. What were we supposed to do? However, they managed to get a court ruling, and the rest is history. He's in Parliament right now, based on how the whole process went. So for me, I am not surprised that he was using violence in Parliament. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised at all because I've seen him firsthand engaging in it. And just this week, I've also seen him telling his supporters that in Ablekuma North, that if you an MPP person and you meet an NDC person who are fighting, join the MPP person and beat up, that is inciting violence, Sena. You are a member of Parliament. You do not incite violence in that manner. It's not just turning MPP against NDC. We are all, you know, Ghanaians. And we must respect each other. And when people vote for you and put you in a certain position, you need to mind your utterances, because what you say goes a long way. Because people are looking up to you. You are your leader. So what you say is what they will do. So you inciting violence on NDC people, I don't think it's well. Now, with what happened in Parliament, I saw what happened. He gave the instructions, break the tables. He was the leader. What has been done? Suspension is not good enough. I think that suspension is not good enough. I think that all the perpetrators must be surcharged, because you cannot use taxpayers' money to, you know, put things in place, and the people that the microphones and tables were put for their comfort to work with are the same ones breaking it. They are the same ones. When a mentally deranged man went to Parliament to go and destroy their vehicles, he was arrested immediately and sentenced. Do you recall? Did you hear about it?
Yeah.
However, here we have another prayer. They are walking around free. Suspension has been lifted, and they are even refusing to, you know, attend the committee to find out what happened. And for me, it beats my mind that people who are supposed to be role models don't even have any sense of responsibility. Till date, I don't think they have apologized to Ghanaians for that vile behavior that they put up in Parliament on that day. They haven't apologized, and I think it's because they have a sense of entitlement. They have a sense of entitlement. They think that they can get away with everything, because when you respond equally, they would say that, oh, we are inviting you to privileges committee. So you don't talk, we can do everything we want to do, but for you, if you talk back, then we will take you to privileges committee. And I think that's what happened with Fahad Castle's case, because from eyewitnesses' accounts, this same Anodompre went up to her and said something to her, and then she responded and said, don't be silly. And then she said, I'm going to disgrace you in public. So intentionally dragged her to public and exposed her that, oh, you said I'm silly. Well, there's something wrong with, if you are being silly, someone tells you are being silly. Personally, that's how I think. But I think that their behavior, their attitude is really, really, really going out of bounds. You take the minority leader. He has been very noisy. Afenyo Marcus has been very noisy, insulting people, you know, all over, jumping from one place to the other. And I can understand why Afenyo Marcus is behaving that way. He was majority leader when they were going into the election. And as majority leader, I think they had about 137 seats, if I'm right. He comes back with about 88 seats. He's embarrassed by the title micro minority, and so he wants to do everything for his base to know that, oh, even though we are micro minority, we have a louder voice than the majority. So let me be boisterous, let me be rowdy, let me harass them and do all these things. So Afenyo Marcus, whatever rowdiness he's exhibiting, whatever noise, whatever he's doing, is just trying to play to his base. You know, so if they are able to behave well, or if they had behaved well, I don't think what happened in Parliament would have happened. Is because some people want to establish themselves as leaders with MPP in opposition, that they are the ones leading the charge in Parliament, and so they are being very loud. Afenyo Martin says all sorts of things because he wants to dominate the headlines. He wants his name to be out there so that his people will say that, oh, he's a good minority leader. So every day you hear him say something silly. He says something that doesn't make sense. He's attacking people. Look at the manner in which Afenyo even attacked the female clerk of Parliament. You know, look at how he denigrated her. I don't think that he would be happy if in the course of his wife's duties, some man denigrates his own wife the way he denigrated that female parliamentary clerk. I don't think he would be, you know. And the witness report of the clerk, she told us that at that point her husband even texted her and called her about 3 times that she should leave. But I think out of respect for her job and for the MPs, she stayed there and took all the bashings and denigration from these people. You know, so you doing it and coming back to say sorry doesn't change anything. You've already broken her. You've broken her soul. You've broken her by all the mean things you said to her. And they were even shouting, all of them, the minority group on that vetting committee were shouting shame, 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 shame at her. You know, that's like mob action. Everybody turning on you and one person sitting there feeling so small. So these things that my micro minority MPs are doing in Parliament, they have an agenda. Their agenda is to ensure that they firm their base as leaders. That, oh, Afenyo is there, the other one, Anodon Prayer is there, so we are in charge. And you cannot use insults and violence to firm your base. There are other ways of doing it. Work hard, go on the grounds, go and do it. But don't come and denigrate people, insult people, tell lies about people, try to use the vetting committee to get people to apologize that things that you have done. Because I also remember that before Sam George was passed, they boycotted it because they said Sam George should apologize for things he had said about Nanado. The things we all know what Nanado did in this country. Nobody is going to apologize to make Nanado look back. It's the facts are facts. What Nanado did, it wasn't just NDC people who saw it. All Ghanaians saw it, and that is why they voted for change. Ghanaians saw the bad governance of Nanado, the pain he took us through, the economic hardship Nanado took us through. We saw it. So Sam George's apology is not going to change the fact that people suffered under Nanado, and that he had no iota of feeling for what Ghanaians were even crying about. He closed his eyes, he closed his ears, he closed everything, and Nanado did what Nanado liked. So people have, and it reflected in the change that we voted for, 38% for them. So you can't come and say that Nanado gave contracts to Jankoma, his daughter. I should come and apologize for it. Did it happen or it didn't happen? It happened. So why are you going to twist my arms because I've been given some position and tell me to apologize? So for personally, I feel that this whole vetting committee thing is a platform for vengeance, revenge, to prove masculinity, to prove ego, that I'm in charge. You know, so these two, they are led by Afenyo Markins and Anodem Prayer so far, and then they whip the others in place and they also follow. So personally, that's the platform. That's how I see it. And I will end by saying that Speaker should surcharge them. It is taxpayers' money that was used to do those things. You cannot destroy government property and not pay for it. If you destroy government property, you must pay. The suspension was not enough. It's been lifted, fine, but they have to take it out of their salaries. Those things must be replaced. They must take the cost of replacing those things that they destroyed. Adults behaving as children, they must take it out of their salaries, so that next time no group of people would think of engaging in such violence on live TV in broad daylight. It would serve as a deterrence for future MPs. But if we let it go like that, everyone will think that, oh, it's okay for me to come to Parliament and misbehave. It is wrong. No, adults behaving like children, it is wrong. For what reason? Is that why we voted for them to go and fight in Parliament and break stuff that belongs to government? So personally, I'm very appalled by them, and those two that I've talked about them, I have seen them. I know why they're doing what they're doing, but they should change their tactics. If they want to be taken, if Afenyo wants to be taken serious, he should change how his tactics, because right now we see him more as a comic. Every time he talks, personally, I'm like, but what is he talking about? So yesterday I saw a headline that he said somebody has not been given appointment, and so now you are telling John Mahama who to give appointments to. Are you now in his cabinet, or are you now in his? You understand what I'm saying? So mind your business. You have minority to manage them, and let John Mahama also manage what he's doing. You know, focus on what's important for you and your constituents and your party. But putting your mouth in everything, you begin to annoy people and you become irrelevant, because people, when you talk, people will now laugh. So Sena, that is what I'll say.
Thank you very much. Now, the work of that committee was supposed to establish who did what, so that they will know who to say judge. But now they are boycotting it. The committee is continuing its work anyway. Now let me come to lawyer.
So Sena, let me wish yourself a good morning. Wish my senior and Ichi, I always say Nombo, but she's Ichi, a good morning, and always a privilege to share a platform with Uncle Kwesi Pratt. Hopefully we can deal with this issue, which is really, really critical when you put it within the context of the impact of what the parliamentarians did as against their number one duty, which really is to protect, defend, and preserve the constitution of this country. With the permission, I want to start this discussion with the preamble of why our constitution was fashioned in the first place. Because for me, I think what they did really was an attack on this democracy, and a democracy which our constitution, the constitution the people of Ghana took upon themselves, created as the best way in which our collective agenda could be served. With the permission, let me read the preamble of the 1992 constitution, portions of it. So it says that in the name of the Almighty God, we the people of Ghana, in exercise of our natural and inalienable rights to establish a framework of government which shall secure for ourselves and posterity the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity, and prosperity. So within the preamble, you can gain the purpose of why we took upon ourselves the constitution. That one is going to create the framework, and that framework of government is what the constitutional democracy, and also a portion of it that says that the principle that all powers, before I said, and in solemn declaration and affirmation to are committed to freedom, to justice, to probity, and accountability. That's the fundamental principle that underpins this constitution. And the principle that all powers of government spring from the sovereign will of the people. All powers of government. So be it the executive power, be it the legislative power, it springs from the people. And then you read the first chapter, and it says the first clause of the constitution, article, it says that the sovereignty of Ghana resides in the people of Ghana, in whose name and for whose welfare the powers of government are to be exercised in the manner and within the limits laid down in this constitution. And in whose name, so they use their powers in their name, and they use those powers, or they're supposed to use those powers for our welfare. Because in whose name, in whose welfare the powers of government are to be exercised in the manner and within the limits laid down in this constitution. So they don't use those powers for the benefit of their political parties. They're not to use those powers for their personal benefit. They're supposed to use the powers we give them for the benefit of Ghana. Now, it is instructive to note that on the 7th of January 2025, they took an oath. The MPs took an oath. And like like anybody who else these governmental powers take an oath, they also took an oath. And one of the first oath they took was to be faithful to Ghana. To be faithful to Ghana. Now, what does this mean? It means that they are going to be faithful to the purpose, to the aim, to the agenda of this constitution. They took an oath. They took that vow. Now we know that because of our checkered history, and because of our checkered history with democracy. Yeah, you understand? Because we've tried democracy. This is the 4th time we are trying it, and 3 times it's been ended. So that one of our so that constitutional democracy as the framework that we believe is the best that can guarantee for us the rule of law, and that secure for ourselves the blessings of liberty, what's called equality of opportunity, as enshrined in the preamble, can only be secured or can only be attained if we have constitutional democracy. So the first duty, or where you say that you are going to be faithful to Ghana, then you are going to act in every way to ensure that this constitutional democracy is entrenched. In how you behave, you're going to behave in the manner that will ensure that this constitutional democracy and everything it represents, all the principles, all the values it represents, you are going to ensure that it is entrenched. Also, I need to add that if there's something which is right, it's in the belief that you cannot entrench and protect constitutional democracy unless you create that right political culture. It's practically impossible to be able to guarantee for yourselves constitutional democracy, to protect same, without creation of the right political culture. A political culture that tolerates diverse view, a political culture that holds leadership accountable, a political culture that respects and protects the values of the rule of law. Now, one of the institutions, state institutions, that is supposed to create that right political culture is Parliament. And in all of Parliament's deliberations, you need to see that spirit of tolerance. You need to see that spirit of accountability. You need to see that spirit of probity in everything they do. Also, recognizing that under our constitution and in its constitutional nature, as limited the powers of government, the constitution asks Parliament to, or made the president's appointment as minister subject to parliamentary approval. You understand? And also we will recognize that the constitution didn't tell that they should do same by vetting. That they themselves, because the constitution gave them the right to manage their own procedures, they use vetting as a means of securing of granting the said approval, as has been granted to them by the Constitution of Ghana. So, in the light of that, and because Parliament is really the house of democracy, you understand? And when we talk about democracy, you think about it. There's a reason why in our local parlance we call it, how we decide to call it is Kibmamin Kebi. There's a reason, Kibmamin Kebi. Yeah, yes, sir. Because one of the fundamental principles that underpins democracy is the right of people to share their views, and also your duty to tolerate their views. And 2, politics. The 3 words for politics got amanyosem. Amanyosem. So, your mind. You understand? So that when you are in politics, you should understand that your fundamental duty is to build, not to destroy. But in how Parliament has handled this simple duty of approval, I do not see any of the values, I do not see any of the principles that will entrench for us the values and the ends of constitutional democracy. One, they are not doing amanyosem. When I say they are not doing amanyosem, they are not in how they are handling themselves, given that view that their focus is to build, not to destroy. They have been extremely intolerant, extremely. And to be fair to this discussion, I must say that the minority are extremely intolerant. And in how they are handling themselves, they are laying credence to that verse in scripture that says that by their fruit you will know them. You understand? They are not emanating the values and principles of this constitution. They are not emanating the values and principles of the people of Ghana. They are showing, they are emanating, they are exuding the values and principles of their party. Very intolerant, very parochial, very unpatriotic. I agree with my senior here when she says that the focus of the minority in this, their duty of granting approval really is not to ensure that they create a framework where we can have the best of Ghana leading. Their focus is to cause a justification of their belief that they lost the election not because of their terrible leadership, but they lost the election because of some propaganda which was peddled by certain people in their position. For me, that seems to be their focus. Because really, if you read the constitution, what are the qualifications under the constitution for somebody to be a minister? It's a fundamental qualification that the person qualifies to be what? An MP. Yeah. So ordinarily, if you choose somebody, if somebody is an MP, then the argument could be made that the person for all intents and purposes qualifies to be what's called a minister. So when you are doing your vet and then you are doing approval, then you must be looking for something even higher. And what force it should be, what is in the interest of the country? As in, how would does this person have any special skill that can benefit the country? Or is there something about this person that makes him unsuitable to hold this position in the interest of the country? But what the feedback personally, and this is my personal view, is that what is fueling their job is not what is in the interest of the country. It's to establish that, listen, we lost the election not because of any bad governance. We lost the election because certain people in the opposition, peddled propaganda against us. So they are still in denial, you understand? And they are putting their state of denial at the detriment of the country. That's the first. Now, two, you see, we say we are building a country, and our constitution recognizes that to do same, then we need a platform of multi-party democracy. And what for me that tells me is that if your parties are not strong, the country can suffer, or the country may suffer. And when we say the parties are strong, sometimes because it's a numbers game, we think that once you have the numbers, then the party is strong. No, if the party can be weakened when they depart from their core values and core principles. Immediately your political party departs from its core principles and its core value, the party is weak and the country can suffer. As because one of the fundamental duties of the party is to use its power to drive public opinion, to shaping that right political culture, which will put us in the best place of fulfilling the ambitions of our constitution. And that's what the blessings of liberty, equality of what? Opportunity and prosperity. Now, if you are going to do a postmortem, we are not dead yet, so I don't think postmortem is the right word. But if you are going to do an honest analysis of the state of this country and whether or not we've managed to fulfill the purpose of the 1992 Constitution, as has been stated in the Constitution itself, whether or not we have the blessings of liberty, whether or not we have the quality of opportunity, whether or not we have prosperity, I think the answer will be an emphatic no. Emphatic no. Emphatic no. So then it means that what we have not been able to fulfill the purpose of the Constitution, and we have not been able to fulfill the purpose of the Constitution largely because of, in my opinion, very political parties too. You understand? Because if you reduce the whole thing to numbers, and because of that perception, that's why, again, I agree with my senior, that what really is falling the minority leader is, how do I please my base? Because I've said it 1,000 times here, and I'm going to say it again, that right now, the New Patriotic Party, in terms of its values and its principles, is a party really that's been forward by familiar spirit. They've departed from all their values. They've departed from all their values, so that when they keep on saying that they are choosing leaders who, or the elephants, the spirit of their party gives them their leaders. So that the spirit of their party give them their presidential candidate. He gave them their vice presidential candidate. He gave them their MPs. Give them their MPs. The spirit of the party. Give them their MPs. So that when they go to parliament, they are supposed to exude those values and those principles. On the 7th of January, the eve of the 7th of January, I was alarmed when people who have been chosen to be MPs, when you are a parliamentarian, you are presenting, because parliament is one body. You see, parliament is one body. It's not, we don't have different parliaments. It's one body made up of different reps from every constituency. You are representing every single person in your constituency. So a parliament represents the country, not your party. So when you are there, you are honorable MP of, let's say, Dominic Kwabena. You are not representing just the MPP or NDC MPs. So when you are alarmed, when on the eve of 7th January, the minority decided to be singing, the elephant is, are we missing? When you are alarmed, at what level do you segregate the party from the country? And then in the numerous sad press conferences they've done, one of those press where they actually insulted and disrespected the person of the clerk of parliament, showing how their views on tolerating disagreement. We come to agree. I believe the reason why you bring more than one panel is because you recognize that we will all have different views. And that's democracy. Because we all have different views, and because democracy seeks to secure and guarantee our freedom of thought, then it also requires us to be tolerant and indeed respectful of other views, of different views. But when they were insulting the woman, they sang once again, the elephant is the winning symbol. But they are there to represent the country. They are there to advance the cause of the country. They are there to advance the agenda of the country. That's their primary cause. Their party cause is secondary. But their primary cause is to advance the agenda of the country. But they are not patriotic. They don't even love the country. What forces them is a very parochial agenda. And that's why they had no qualms in a simple issue of we are tired, we are not tired. We want to continue, we don't want to continue. In this simple issue. I've heard arguments that, listen, they had a program and schedule. Yes, I agree, we all respect schedule. Yes, we all respect schedule. We all respect program. But is a reaction to a fundamental departure from schedule to breach the law of Ghana, to destroy the property of Ghana, to give up an image of Ghana which is undemocratic, to tell the people of Ghana that, listen, when you disagree, it is right for you to resort to violence. Leaders of Ghana in the house of democracy, that, listen, tell Ghanaians that when you disagree, when I'm disagreeing with you, then I'll be justified in response to the disagreement if I resort to violence. And that the minority chief whip, I think, see, they've lost value, or they've lost view of what their job is. When we see someone is a minority chief whip, what is he supposed to whip his members into, as in to do? Is he meant to whip them to destroy? Is it meant to whip them to disrespect and violate the laws of Ghana? Is it meant to put out an image that violates our attempt to create that right political culture that tolerates diverse views? Is it meant to whip them to show the character of his party? Because that's what he did. He whipped them not to chase an agenda that inured to the benefit of the country, but he whipped them in line with the values of the party to violate the country, to violate this democracy. That's what he did. To violate the dignity of Parliament. That's what he did. To erode the small gains we've made in this democratic effort. That's what he did. That day of disgrace, that's what he did. Now, I know a lot has been said about the reaction of the Speaker. That reaction to salvage what was left of the image of Parliament. To salvage any modicum of respect Parliament had. Also, that day of shame, Parliament actually lost a lot of respect. Parliament lost a lot of respect. Because for the House of Democracy to tell the people of Ghana that we do not respect one of the fundamental values of democracy, that is to tolerate and respect diverse views. So the haste in the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament to suspend the members, in my view, was in a haste to salvage what was left of the image, the respect, the dignity of Parliament. But having said that, is it enough? Or can you make an argument that because of how low Parliament has sunk, then you, the Speaker, you also have the right to then take actions which really does not support or infringes against the principles of the rule of law? Thankfully, we have a Speaker, and I've said a lot here. That one, for me, one of the men of the match, and I love football, so allow me to use man of the match. One of the men of the match over the period of 2021 and 2024, which will go down as one of the darkest periods in the democracy of this country, was the Speaker. Some of his very deep elucidations. In fact, I was really impressed with one of the last speeches he made, as in the heat of the majority-minority scuffle, as in the last Parliament, when he tried, where he attempted to remind them about their constitutional duty and what it meant, the oath they took. Very deep. But having said that, my personal view was that the Speaker was not clothed with the power to exert the punishment he did, just based on procedure, not necessarily on substance, on their own procedure. In my mind, the committee he set up is to, at the end, they help him to fulfill that procedural requirement to exert right punishment. Because they are standing others keep on saying me. And I've heard arguments that they don't have a party. It says me. I think the Speaker should have or has powers to create a committee to look into this matter in fulfillment of principles like natural justice and all. But we all saw what happened. We all saw what happened. We saw the affront and dignity, or the indignity of Parliament. And in the terms of the indignity, even the 2 weeks was very generous. That 2 weeks was very generous. Because they breached the oath they took. In how Honourable MP for Alhaji, he breached the terms of the oath he took. What he did was very unfaithful to Ghana. What he did, Muntutu Mike, no, Mumbubu tables, no, that was criminal.
Yeah.
That was criminal, because to destroy state property is a crime. And we don't want criminals in our Parliament. That was a crime. And you see, in the light of equality before the law, that we are all equal before the law, they should not forget the criminal angle. Because you want to give the right kind of communication to the people. You need to give the right confidence to the people that listen, that this framework we've taken up ourselves can secure for us indeed the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity, and prosperity. And that the principles of the rule of law is going to be entrenched. So I'm following this matter seriously. It should not end there. Criminal action should be taken against them. Because that's how you can salvage the lost image of Parliament and by extension this democracy. Because Article 1 says that, listen, they use their powers in our name and for our welfare. And if the purpose of the Constitution is one to secure us the blessings of liberty, equality of opportunity and prosperity, that anybody that does any act that takes away the fidelity of the people towards this framework as the best framework that can secure for us the aspirations, the common aspirations of the people of Ghana, then they must be dealt with appropriately. So we are looking at the criminal angle. They should not just about the surcharge. Yes, we will surcharge them, but there's also a criminal angle, as I say, which must be complied with. Now, in light with that spirit, the spirit which is an affront to the values of democracy, see, they are refusing to partake in the activities of that ad hoc committee whose focus is to salvage their lost dignity. I know the current NDC, they are too gentle. I don't understand. You have 180. What's your numbers? 180 something. 180 something. Why are you allowing this super micro? They call it micro, super micro. And maybe you mention micro, then a huge monkey just jumps upon their back. By super micro. The way they are going, if they don't take by 2028, it become micro. Because the biggest problem we have going to 2025, going to this period, this next 4 years, is you have a minority or you have an opposition or the biggest opposition party in this country that has lost all credibility. All credibility. One, in terms of how the governance they give us, in terms of the inability of the party where a sin was being done in the country to speak up. In spite of, the story of Empress New Cloth, Sena, the Empress New Cloth, where some scammers came and told the emperor that, listen, we are going to sew your cloth, and only the wise people will see the cloth. And so because of that, when they come and they pretend like they're doing, then they call people, can you see they're all there? Oh, you are looking fantastic. The MPP allowed that to happen to Ghana over the last 4 years, where sin after sin after sin was being done in the country, and the party lacked the sheer cojones to speak out and say, listen, that the purpose for which we have formed was because of the country, and that's what we call amanyosem, was because of the country, and that, yes, we sponsored you to be president, but on the issue of Galamsey, no, you are delivering something which is an affront to our core values. On the issue of the president going around telling people that, listen, I didn't bring development to you because you didn't vote for my MP. No, MPP, that's not what we stand for. On all the so many other issues, on the Senate hotel sale issue, then no, we do not stand for these values. And so the whole country was left to a sad doom of being granted the Empress New Cloth because of sycophants. So they don't have credibility. Because right now, what will be their position on Galamsey? We hope that we solve the Galamsey issue. But let's say if Galamsey is happening, do they have the moral capacity to speak against it? They have no capacity. Yes, maybe it will be the frontal. They will give the opposition when needed, but we will give a constructive one. We won't just oppose for opposing sake. We'll oppose and we'll give recommendations, how we think things ought to be done. You see, within the context of all of us building our country. You understand? So, you see, the parties need to reaffirm their loyalty to their core values. It's important. I know the NPP are speaking, but the starting point is to have an honest introspection, to admit that you lost the election not because of any propaganda. Nobody did any propaganda. You lost the election and lost it massively because of the non-governance you gave us. Governance which was not to the interest of the people of Ghana. Governance which was very parochial in nature. People didn't have any cause to say that we won't stop Galamsey today, we won't stop Galamsey tomorrow. Even in the choice of your song, what's God? So in your house, so we voted against you massively. They should have that introspection, recognize that they lost because of their own misgovernance. You understand? 2, they should have a thorough introspection and recognize that they departed from their core values. They departed radically from their core values and core ideals. And unless they return and reaffirm and create a system where there will be no chance of charlatans taking over the party, sucking the good spirit and inviting familiar spirit, thousands of them into their fold, then there's no chance for them. And for the NDC to also learn from the NPP that they would also keep what they have, make sure that they entrench their values, that they do not place themselves in a position where they become like the NPP. Because so when said share now issue them to entrench their values, because like I said, there's a reason why we said multi-party democracy. Because if you want the best form of governance, then you must understand that there will be different ways of seeing how government ought to be done. But you need to create a system, society, where people will be free to share their views, and as we are sharing, as we are debating, as we are arguing, then we can be able to fashion out the best system. So, Sena, to end, the ad hoc committee is critical. They must continue with their work, whether the minority will join or not. And I'm very glad we have the deputy majority speaker here. Are you on 180 something? What do you need these people for? Once you've attempted to bring them on board, and for whatever reason they say they'll stay outside, forget about them. You have the quorum. Continue with your work, because, like I'm saying, the focus of your work is to salvage what is left of the image of Parliament, which these people don't care about. They don't care about the country, clearly. Because if they cared, then they'll be saying mumbubu, we say no, tutu, they don't care. So if they themselves, by themselves, will decide not to join the effort to restore the lost dignity of Parliament, largely to their misactions, then they should leave them, and Parliament should do their work, go into what happened, but it shouldn't end there, and exact the right punishment. Exact the right punishment. Not the 2 weeks. The 2 weeks is very generous. Not the 2 weeks the distance is too generous. And beyond exactly the right punishment, to also pursue the criminal element. Because if I am the president, if I destroy state property, I bet you I'll be going up and down to the police. Yes. All with the aim of putting us in a position where we can fulfill our common agenda of restoring Ghana as the Black Star of Africa.
Thank you very much. Well, by the conventions of Parliament, even though there are two sides, there's a minority and a majority, the majority leader is always referred to as the leader of the House. So I guess we have in our presence the deputy leader of the House. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah. And I'll come to you shortly. But before that, first let me acknowledge that we are live on Keys 89.7 FM in Takrady. We're also live on Shine FM in Akachi, 96.9 FM, Hills FM at Akulu, 91.7, Niwasi Radio Ketekrachi on 89.7 FM, Sela Radio in Dabala on 97.1, Diamond FM in Tamale on 93.7, Bewa Radio in Yendi on 106.5. There is Radio Kita on Saboba on 95.7, Benya FM Elmina on 105.7, Global FM 105.1 in Ho, Zeps FM 95.9 in Zabila. There's True FM 92.5 in Adeso. There's La Maria FM 89.1 in Tripoli. There's Buem 88.7 FM in Jasikan. There's Lukusi 96.1 in Vergolokwati, Tyne FM 90.9, Sekpele 104.3 in Likbe, Tudume. There's Akpini Radio in Kwando. There's Deniba Radio 90.9, OT Radio in Dambai are all currently tuning to us. If you're listening to us on any of those platforms, thank you. And don't forget, we are live on Pan-African Television on TV and live also radio in the capital on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. Just a few comments to go through. This is, okay, it doesn't come with a name. It says, I find it difficult to understand why the media has refused to expose these selfish MPs. The truth is that Afenyomakin and his minority are just using districts to demand money from the government in order to cooperate. NEC MPs benefited from they benefit from the same tricks and got money. Another benefits through Chief of Staff Pery. Don't forget Ken Oforiatta and other ministers were approved under strange circumstances during the Akufo-Addo regime. The then NDC minority benefited a lot because of the hung parliament. Now Julius Zebra on the other hand feels he has a majority to pass his ministers and not ready to release any money in the name of facilitating the vetting process. So in order to get the attention of the government, the NPP MPs are causing the chaos and disrupting proceedings in parliament. You often hear Afenyomakin telling the NDC MPs, you are the one who have government business to run. Clearly suggesting, if you don't settle us, as we did to you, we will disrupt government business. NDC MPs are struggling to use their majority and hiding under the cover of consensus building because some of them benefited from MPP in previous parliament. These are some of the secrets they vow to die with. Simple. Thank you. This is J. John Pecky Jack, who says, I think our MPs and other public sector workers' salaries, other remunerations like allowances, including city allowances, vehicle loans, rent allowances, etc., must be made public. Where did Afenyomakin get money within a short period to buy such a huge plot of land and build estate houses while delving into Kujeto, Ablakwa, and Sam George's other sources of income? It's gladdening to notice how the legacy of training and grooming NDC youth to be honest and accountable is being seriously upheld and continued by JDM. NDC is the now and the future. Thank you, JGM, for that comment. Peter says, Sena, how can human being representing the elephant destroy trees in the forest? I've said MPP party against Ghana. Theirs is to steal, loot, and destroy. Only God Almighty will judge them. That's coming from Peter. Gameli Achu in Kumasi says, a brilliant submission. Listening to this gives the assurance that all is not lost. Kudos. Thank you, Gameli. There's Sami from Bubiashi, who is also joining us. Says a good morning to us. There's the MPP in opposition today because of Nanado, Baumia, Napo, and Afenyomakin. Now, the first three have dropped out and left with Afenyo. And should he continue like this, he will remain in opposition for 30 years if Christ won't appear now. Sami sent that from Bubiachi, and thank you, Sami. There's Alan Kujo from Gomwa Onyazi. Says, please, I want to ask Ghana, if we as people will sit for MPP in parliament to hold us to hostage by slowing down government work to move Ghana forward. Is government saying they can't work without MPP in parliament? Alan, thank you for that comment. This one is Abdul Mumuni Zakaria, who is joining us. Says, I know the impressed behaviors are unbecoming of him, and I'm not very happy with the majority in parliament. You also behave like you are the minority. You are becoming a disappointment the Ghanaian, especially the NDC supporters. How can Anodonpre and Afenyomakin take Parliament of Ghana to ransom? If they think they are more Ghanaians than some of us, we will not agree to that. Anodonpre should stop talking with impunity. He should be careful. One person can stop him. Okay, thank you very much, Abdul Rahman. Thank you for that comment. This one says, my name is Rash Chacha from Yape in Central Gonja. I'll be personally disappointed at the NCT and its machinery if they do not take any action against the member of parliament who looked the face of Ghanaians and insulted Dr. Zanato. Ghanaians want to see the MP who said, if not, we will advise ourselves. Thank you very much for that comment. A few more. Asanko in Santa Maria. Is it not strange and unfortunate that some characters have taken the vetting process of nominees as an opportunity to settle political score? Should this irresponsible behavior be allowed? Asanko in Santa Maria sent that. There's James K. Saba, who is joining us. Afenyomakin is suffering from cognitive dissonance. truly speaking, I didn't blame the MPP member of Parliament for insulting the former J.J. Rawlings' daughter, but rather blame the wife who betrayed the husband in the NDC party that the husband founded. She should be ashamed of herself. That's James K. Saba's comment. So those are some of the comments you share with us on the issue we are discussing. There's this one who says, I think the NDC is weak, and some of us regret voting for them. Why should they allow someone who did not win his seat to be fooling around? If not barter trade, they are doing with the minority. Alberto sent that from Elembele. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for those comments. Keep them coming. I guess, leader, you have been listening to some of the comments I've been reading on what is transpiring in Parliament. Well, let's listen to you.
Good morning, Sarah. And good morning to my sister, Zita. I haven't seen you for a while. And my brother, Andrew, always present. And my senior brother, Kwesi. Yes, I listened to, first of all, let me say Happy New Year, as we haven't met in the New Year.
Yes.
Yeah, and we thank God for bringing us here. And where we go from here is also another challenge. What happened in Parliament, and it was appointment committee, actually, not the whole, Parliament, was something that I thought I would never see again. It was quite disgraceful because obviously when the speaker was being elected the first time, we had a similar, incident. But I think what happened this time around was much more serious than that. In that Parliament where the speaker was elected, it was clear that the type of Parliament that Ghanaians gave us, more or less a hung Parliament, was going to have its challenges, like the one we saw. So in the 8th Parliament, certain things happened that was like a new terrain for all of us. Now, in this 9th Parliament, it has started in quite a strange way, where we have the supermajority, as they call it, and the other side is the micro-minority, as they sometimes don't want to admit. They've added mighty to the micro. And it's not something that any member of Parliament should actually be proud of. I think we owe Ghanaians a sincere apology, and we cannot apologize enough. It was a disgraceful act. I mean, despicable. You really don't, you run short of words to describe such a behavior by supposedly honorable members of Parliament. You earn to become an honorable member by your constituent voting you to office as to represent them as honorable. But there's a second thing altogether, staying there as honorable. And that is based on your character, your behavior, your performance, and so many other things that the Ghanaians expect you and your constituent. What we did there, and we are supposed to, Parliament, every Parliament in the world, is supposed to be the symbol of democracy. Without Parliament, and then I'm not a lawyer, I have a lawyer here, without Parliament, you actually don't have a democracy. Because you can have the executive arm of, judiciary, but you need the Parliament to make it a complete democracy. So we are supposed to be the ones to show the way. And what we did there is unacceptable and really inexcusable. Because what led to that, I still can't understand it. I'm a vice chairman of the appointment committee, but the fact that I'm now a deputy majority leader. But I didn't actually get there on the committee from the beginning. Because if you remember, Honorable Atuforsen and that team left somewhere in the middle. I mean, they became majority leaders and then stayed for a while until, they were appointed and vetted. So I joined as a full member of the committee the day that the gentleman, the activist, is it Vomawo, was invited, you know, to come. But previously, when I was told that that would be the position that I'm likely to occupy, and I knew that it comes automatically that I will be the vice chair of the appointment committee, I actually started attending some of the appointment committee meetings. So you will see me that I'll be sitting at the back, not at the table, just observing. And I was horrified by some of the observations that I saw. So I kept asking, I mean, why will this person do this? So we have actually agreed to it. It's something that has been a convention. I say, what sort of convention is this? That a minority leader can talk forever. I mean, for how many days are we, if this guy chooses to speak all day? And I find that completely unacceptable, not in anywhere in the world. You wouldn't even expect be on a committee where you have the president of the republic, if he's on there, to speak forever. I mean, meetings are time constrained. Vetting are time constrained. Interviews, which this was, we call it vetting, are time constrained. Therefore, time should be allocated to members. It doesn't matter who you are. And then they talk about, you know, if you go to 1990, this, as a 1996 or something, J.H. Mensah, you go to 2000, Bagman did same. And I said, so what? I mean, what was done before? The reason why we learn history is for us to be able to change certain things that didn't work. And we have moved from there, you know, from in this Fourth Republic, we've moved from, you know, various, from 1 to 9 now. And we had not changed our standing orders for over 20 years, about 24 years or something. The last time was 2000. And we had to change it. Why did we change it? Because there were certain things that we felt needed to change. We cannot continue as usual and said, this person did that. What was the parliament at the time? That led to Bagman talking for whatever time they said he did, or J.H. Mensah. Things have changed. And we've got to change with the times. So, to fast forward, I joined the committee. And then the first act was to listen to this gentleman who had been invited. I mean, I asked, because I had a problem with that to start off with, that if somebody had done something, you know, to the contempt of Parliament, ideally it goes to the Privileges Committee. And I served in the Privileges Committee as a ranking member. So I have a fair idea what the procedure is. But then, of course, we still haven't had our committees in place because of some challenges that we are facing. So, in the wisdom of the chairman, he thought that this was an urgent matter that affects the credibility of the committee, and therefore needed to deal with that issue for us to be able to continue, because this was a corruption allegation that, if not cured, might create a problem that what we are doing, you know, is not really done in a way, we are not credible. So I agreed to that, since we didn't have any option at that time to deal with it, and the vetting needed to go on. I mean, the president has said, I will appoint my ministers, cabinet ministers, in 2 weeks when I'm in. He had given us the names, and our job is to make sure that the president succeed in what he had promised Ghanaians, and that is to do the vetting. But I tell you what led to this? Vetting is not a rocket science. Planning to vet is not a rocket science. Names have been given to you. You have to plan, have a pre-meeting, plan a timetable, agree on how many number of people you are going to take in a day, because you had this number of people, you know, 42 people or something. Both sides come together in a meeting like we're doing now and agree. And that's what happened. A timetable was drawn. I must be honest that we did put a bit of pressure on ourselves on the timetable that we put together. Because when I looked at the number of names on the list, and as I said, when I got there,
some vetting had already taken place, that of Honorable Atuforson, Honorable Amokofi-Boa, and others had taken place. And that was a timetable. And my understanding is that it had been agreed. I subsequently attended the meetings. If there were any changes, people have been written to, these are the nominees, to bring their families. People are coming as far as north and other places, chiefs and that. I mean, those of us who've been to, and former minister here, who've been to vettings and all that, everyone wants to attend your vetting. Even you, I mean, some people will come without your knowledge. You wouldn't bring them. Yeah. And they are there. But once they are there, they are your responsibility. What they will eat, where they will sleep. So if you are not able to maintain or keep to the time, and people have to sleep over and whatever, that's going to come at an enormous cost. So these are big chiefs from your place. How you treat them as you brought them to Accra itself, you have to be very careful. That could be your last election. So all these things had happened. And I tell you what, the management, and I think we'll get it better this time around, the management on the whole thing was not good. Because the whole parliament became a security, situation, threat. Because you have people walking all over the place that nobody knew. And the assumption is that they had all come to support one candidate or the other. So these timetables were done. I mean, I think one of the problems that threw us completely out of gear was the idea that a minority leader had a limitless time to talk. So if we are programmed to do 4 even a day, and by 4, if you say you want to do 3 hours per each candidate, that's going to take you 12 hours. That's not including, breaks and lunch and all that. And that's a full day. But if you have someone who himself talks for 3 hours on one particular nominee, it means he alone exhausts the whole time that others. So you realize that, and so when I saw that, I realized that, look, something needed to be done. I'm somebody who doesn't speak much when it comes to these things. I only look at the important issues. But the few times I spoke, I tried to speak a bit at length. And the reason was, especially when I was doing Honorable Okujoto Ablakwa, because I realized that the way the opposition or the minority were behaving, we were not getting any say in the whole thing. The guys take all the time, and by the time it gets to us, and it's our job to make sure the president nominee goes through. So we are not going to spend the same amount of time to scrutinize the person, especially somebody we had known, we sit in parliament with them. And the basis of becoming a minister is to qualify to be a member of parliament. So I would have thought, if that is the case, then the vetting for a member of parliament should be halved. Because if you are not a member of parliament, you can still be a minister, but you must first qualify to be a parliamentarian. So then you are going to be scrutinized whether you qualify to be a member of parliament. That's one phase. Before we look at the character and other things that needed to, skills, competence, and other things that needed to be looked at. So, if you are a member of parliament, then first half should be ticked. If you want to go back there, then somebody did not do their work well for you to become a member of parliament. And therefore, that is why you see that leaders of the House or member of parliament vetting in the past have been shorter than maybe others who are not members of parliament. But the whole thing was all over the place. It doesn't matter where you are coming from, whether you are from parliament or whatever. Some questions, look, this vetting, and as we have called it vetting, it's part of a process of confirming a president or approving a president nominee. So basically, it's an interview. Just like any other interview. trying to find out whether somebody has the skill set, the competence, the character, and what have you, to become a minister of state. Some questions that were asked were actually unnecessary questions. And they will tell, somebody will tell you, oh, they are necessary. You are appointing somebody to this high office, you need to know this, you need to know their, yeah, of course, background, experience, skills. But certain questions were unwarranted. And at some stage, it looked more like a criminal trial than actually a vetting of somebody to become a minister of state. And the questions that the minority leader asked, you would maybe at the beginning get interested. As you see in criminal court, you think the guy is leading somewhere by the questions he's asking. As I said, I'm not a lawyer. So you are intrigued. You want to know where this guy is going with this. Something is going to, the guy has asked a question that somebody was not born in Udumasi or whatever. So what information has he got? And it ends at nothing. So I don't know if you look at things on the internet, like the likes of TikTok and things like I do sometimes. You realize that Chinese have movies that when they started, it's quite interesting. You follow it, you want to see, and then somewhere they stop it and they say you need to subscribe or something. And you get upset. That's what happened. Everything Honorable Afeye took didn't end anywhere. A brick wall. And then he starts a new one. And he was taking all the time. I, at one meeting, questioned him that, look, it is what you're doing that is not done anywhere. You cannot talk for, and then he told me that he's going to, it's been done in the past, so he's going to follow suit. So, a lot of things that happen as a result of what he did and some of his members did, and threw our whole timetable out of gear. So when we had said we were going to do 3 or 4 people, you realize that by evening, we are not even there. You are done only 2 people or whatever. So we had that problem, and that basically sort of distorted everything that we were doing, and that confusion set in. Then after we had agreed something, they will come and say, oh, yes, we did say we'll do Honorable Akando, but we'll change our mind. We are tired. We are going to. Why are we tired? Because one man had taken 3 hours to ask questions. Why wouldn't you be tired? And the same man who are taking, the honorable gentleman who are taking that time to talk, is the one saying we are tired. Why wouldn't you be tired if you talk for 3 hours on one person? You see, so I just couldn't get the thinking of the whole thing, and I just couldn't get the complaints they were making that you cause a problem, and then now you are the one using the problem to create another problem. So it was not that we couldn't plan well the timetable, at least the ones I got involved, but it's because we were thrown out of gear because of these acts and there were some of the members on the other side, the NPP side, who took a clue from what he was doing and also decided to also expand their questions. And some of them were first timers. And this idea that they bring people, they say they are subject matter people, and they bring people, subject matter ideally should have been people from the committees. So if they invited a finance minister, we expect the finance committee and other people to be there. Because we have people on committees based on their background and experience and knowledge. So that's the easiest pool to bring. But we didn't have that. So all of a sudden, everybody who had an interest in a nominee becomes a subject matter. And the subject matter was supposed to be 2 people. But at one stage, I was chairing when the chairman, goes out for a little break or something. And they had submitted 4 names for subject matter. And I said, well, the subject matter is supposed to be 2. Then they said, oh, okay, then take this name and put it as second. Then I'll put it there and I will put a line on that. Then they'll come back and say, no, now take the first one and put. So I don't know what subject those people were there to address. So the confusion or the problems were actually created on the minority side. Now, if you want to blame the majority, and we have to be critical of ourselves and not say that we did everything 100%, is that we could not put our foot down. I mean, Ghanaians voted for us with this massive majority for us to do something. And I don't challenge people who are criticizing that we look like the minority. Maybe we haven't come out of the minority to majority, and the minority, they haven't come out from having lost an election to minority. But I'm sure that it won't take long. You know, things will iron itself out, and we'll see who the real majority is. Some concessions that we made with them, again, also before I arrived on the committee, was that, you know, conventionally, when a minister knows this, when a minister is nominated, there's supposed to be a memoranda advertised for 21 days or something, minimum 14 days. But then, of course, in our own trying to hurry and meet the president staff, we negotiated with the minority that, look, instead of doing this, we say we are masters of our own rules. I mean, I've been in the house for 12 years. I'm still yet to understand what that means. You know, masters of our own rules. So we're going to, you know, basically cut the time short and do the vetting as quickly as we get the nominees. And we had to agree with them, obviously, as a committee. And we did. So that agreement that we made with them was actually a bad one. But then I can understand why we did it. Because we wanted to fast track the president and for the president to meet the cabinet, because the president promised us 2 weeks. He is giving us a list. We can't spend forever in approving when he has a majority in parliament that he is relying on to approve his nominee. So we cut this bad deal, as I call it, with the minority, and that strengthened the minority to think that now you've cut a deal with us, you need us, so that we can misbehave and do whatever we like. And we too felt that, oh, these guys have bent backwards with us. We didn't even have to sit on Monday, because Parliament sits on Tuesday. So Monday, we've called them and they've come and everything. Not knowing that they were doing all those things because they had an agenda. That, okay, we're going to use this to tell you that if we done this for you, then we too let us dance on the table. That's the, you know, and that's basically what happened. Dancing on the table. That resulted on that fateful day. So the incident of the corruption allegation also played part of the delay in terms of bringing this gentleman in for that day, which meant that that day, which I believe was a Wednesday, that's why I joined the committee fully, there was no vet. So that means that we have increased the backlog that we had already built through Honorable Afenyo's, you know, I don't know what it is, live broadcast or whatever, to other things that taken us to that position. The clerk of parliament, that Honorable Afenyo, basically went after, had not done anything wrong. He'd been the clerk of that committee for years. At a time where we've done an affirmative, you know, action, you know, laws and all that. And look at what we are encouraging people to take positions in parliament as members of parliament, clerks and other things. This is how we publicly humiliate a professional lady doing her work from a distance, not even close by. He was at one end of the table, shouting across. And this is supposed to be an honorable member who is a leader of the minority. And it was a disgrace for all of us who were all sitting down watching for this honorable gentleman to continue the drama. And what ended with that, or what the day before, these tables and I mean, when you are a chief whip, I was just thinking, And I feel sorry for my brother Roxanne, because he was caught in the middle of things. Of course, chief whips, they have their own way of, so he thought he should also go there. And you could clearly see that they were actually holding his smoke that he was wearing, and obviously throwing his hands around. Many people threw their hands around. And if you look at the video from different angles, look, so many people should have been suspended. But the speaker, in his wisdom and what he saw, and I thought that the investigation will bring out more people who misbehaved and were dishonorable on that day will come out and they should be punished. Then I was horrified. I mean, I usually would not engage in this thing, but even I was horrified. I was sitting there, it was like watching a movie. Members of Parliament breaking table chairs and pushing tables and lifting it up. And we have people, children, grandchildren, all these people, they have grandchildren and all that, watching at home. Your father is going to work to make laws for the country. He enters into a boxing ring and start boxing. It was so disgraceful. I was ashamed to be a member of Parliament. Because what are you going to say? When they say members of Parliament, your name is included. Whatever misbehavior, whatever happens there, sometimes you become a frustrated politician when you see things that others are doing that you probably can't do anything about, but it's happening before you. What do? Go in, and even when you go in to separate and somebody hits you, you might respond as of defending yourself, and you become a culprit. You become part of the whole thing. So it's something that I think even our apologies took longer in coming. Eventually we did, because I was pushing that, look, we're going to go and apologize to Ghanaians, because this is so bad. This is unacceptable. We cannot put this behavior and we continue to be called honorable members. Honorable of what? It's disgraceful, shameful, no excuse for it. Just overvetting. That's what it result to putting up a timetable together to vet. It's not a rocket science. But we got it so wrong. The minority, look, I have come to a conclusion that this minority, this current minority, in their current whatever behavior and what they are doing, it doesn't suggest to me that these guys are there to help us do any government business. And I've told my colleagues, I don't believe that. They have their own agenda. They come and then stand. You have government business. We want to help you do government business. None of it. What they are saying is opposite what they want to achieve. The optics. Look, they keep saying we are under instructions. My job is on the line. You hear them saying that. So who are those masters who are making their jobs on the line? So they have been whipped to behave a certain way and report back to their political masters who had probably keep them in leadership position or whatever. And the intention is not to help. I mean, I don't think any NDC member in Parliament should actually believe that the MPP is in Parliament to help President Mahama succeed with his agenda. They are looking at 2028 and they are trying to do what will put them on that path. And we, I can understand people say, oh, we are not performing, we are not this. That's actually not true. I mean, I've been on the different leadership in Parliament with different styles. And then also you come to a time where it is the time that actually suggests the style of leadership. And I think times like this, I mean, you look at people say, oh, I'm a diplomat, I'm cool. Honorable Ayaraga is pretty much the same. And then, it's like you need an aggressive front. No, you don't. You don't need to be aggressive to be a leader. I don't believe that. And leadership emerges, as I said, depending on the situation. When you were in opposition, the style of leadership or the strategy should be an attacking one, obviously. Because you are trying to wrestle power from people. Therefore, you have to go at them but go at them constructively. When you are in power, the attitude or leadership also has to change. Then it becomes defensive. You are to defend government. You are not to misbehave. You are not to do the same thing. No, don't play the game the others are playing. So what they did in the appointment committee, if you follow suit as majority, that is the result you're going to get. Because there will be a brawl in the place. You will get involved, showing to your base that you are the super majority. And you're going to misbehave, destroy property of government. And then we are in parliament, condemning violence that is happening elsewhere. I mean, such a double, sometimes you don't understand how people think on the position that they are, what they are there to do. There are people in leadership who have had challenges and violence in their own elections. And they have just escaped back into parliament through whatever means. Some are still being challenged. And these same people come to parliament and behave the way they are behaving. It goes to justify whatever happened in their constituencies that people, spoke against. That did they actually even get there legitimately? Or they use the same style, Rambo style to get there. And that we as majority needs to begin to advise ourselves.
Okay.
And make sure that, and I do agree with Ghanaians, and as I said, I've given you that myself and Ayaga, our approach is different. We're trying to get the parliament, the whole parliament on board and, get things done. But you see, when you try something and it's not working, you're going to change your mind. It's only a fool who doesn't change. We come to parliament, we won. President Obama said, don't misuse your majority. Okay, if you only admit that you have lost and you want to build your party back, nobody stops you from that. But we've got government business to do. Ghana is a continuous concern. Let's build the Ghana we want, and you can do your politics. But if your aim is that you're going to be disruptive of government business by putting the gentleman we have put as their minority leader, and he says everything, he has to find a way to oppose this, and so he's warm, cold. 1 minute he's apologizing to the speaker and apologizing to Ghanaians. The same day, he's misbehaving again. How can you trust such a person? I have spoken to people who said to me, oh, we're going to do this and this. They get to the chamber, they do something completely different. So as far as I'm concerned, the MPP will have to really show serious signs that they are ready to support us. Other than that, as majority as we are, we should be able to advise ourselves. And the committee that has been put up by Mr. Speaker, again, the issue is about not having formed committees, and for that reason, maybe the issue should have gone to privileges. But there are articles in the constitutions that give Mr. Speaker the power to be able to set up an ad hoc emergency, such a committee to be able to deal with this urgent matter, and he had done so. For the other side, accepting it in the chamber and going to the committee and say they will not participate, I think, and again, I'm not a lawyer, if the constitution allows us to carry on things, Ghanaians voted 8th parliament to be a hanged parliament. They voted this one to put a daylight between the majority and the minority. Ghanaians don't get it wrong. This is what I've come to realize. They did that for a reason. We have to make it count. And that's if we have to, move to from diplomacy to mid-diplomacy to get the house moving, that's what we should do. But I have come to the conclusion, and unless my friends are ready and they prove me wrong, that they are not there to do government business. Not only are they not there to do government business, but they are there to disrupt government business by any means necessary. And that's where we are.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you just join us, that's the Deputy Majority Leader, Honorable George Kukuriki-Zegan. We're discussing the work of the ad hoc committee set up by the Speaker. Remember, everything largely depends on this committee. This committee is supposed to identify who did what, so that we'll find out who will pay for it. And the speaker has also indicated that he's asked the clerk, directed the clerk, to report the matter to the police. So there are many things, legs on which this will stand. Well, let me jump to Comrade Kwesi Praton, the issue.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have been expressing surprise at what happened in Parliament and what is happening in Parliament. I am not surprised at all. What is clear is that some of the members of our Parliament have decided to expose Parliament in a bourgeois society for what it is. You know, before, the true nature of Parliament is hidden in the exchange of pleasantries and so on. In reality, this is a bourgeois democratic society, and its parliament has all its features. Now, Honorable Ricketts raises a point about how some people got into parliament, how they became members of parliament in the first place. And that's an important issue. You see, CDD, all kinds of research organizations have established that in Ghana, to become a member of parliament, you need so much. And last time, we were told that you need about $5 million to become a member of parliament. That excludes the vast majority of our people. It means that the vast majority of our people are excluded. Now, who are the people who are able to raise these huge amounts to contest elections and to become members of parliament? There are people who obviously are pursuing the interest of the moneyed elite in our society. Clear. You understand? In all of the elections, we've had situations where people have been killed as part of the process of getting people into parliament. Now, if you're part of a system which leads to murder, to killing of people and so on, in order to get people into parliament, are you surprised that they are breaking tables? Breaking tables is nothing compared to killing people and so on. So I think it's important that we understand this, very, very clearly. Now, something surprises me, and it surprises me a great deal, that you have a parliament of 276 members, and you have a caucus of 88 members, and they are allowed to hold the whole country and parliament to ransom. What is happening? Something is not working. 276 member parliament, and 88 of them do as they please, disrupt everything, hold all of us to ransom. Something is not working. Something is not in its place. You understand? That's my worry. Of course, even if the minority caucus was made up of just one person, that one person has rights and responsibilities. They have a right to freely express themselves. They have a right to contribute to debates and so on. But they don't decide. They don't make decisions for this country. I mean, how do you allow the micro minority to pose as if without them, nothing can happen in parliament? Something is wrong. And it is that thing which is wrong that we must examine. You understand? You see, I have been watching Parliament. And I remember one incident where a member of Parliament gave a hefty slap to his colleague. Really hefty slap across the face. You understand? I saw it. I remember seeing a member of Parliament grab ballot papers and chewing the ballot papers like a rat. Listen, I saw it. I know that in Parliament there have been serious allegations of impersonation. Those allegations were never proven, but they still hang over the head of Parliament. Now, if you have a Parliament in which it is alleged that members of Parliament are impersonated, what kind of Parliament can that be? And this matter should have been pursued to its logical conclusion. It was not. And it continues to hang over Parliament. But what happened recently, I think is the worst of all the things that have happened in Parliament. I'm sitting in my office and I'm watching television. And I see on television a member of Parliament ordering his colleagues to obtain tables. The video is there for all to see. Obtain the tables. He himself carries his chair and places it on the table. Then his colleagues start carrying their chairs, placing it on the table, and so on. And then they start the process of destruction, destroying microphones and so on. And you know the worst part? The following day or so, the leader of this micro minority has the effrontery to hold a press conference and to tell all of us that the damage was minor. Yeah. So we should ignore it. It doesn't matter. You can destroy government property. You can break the legs of tables and so on. After all, it's minor damage. Minor damage? Should anything be destroyed? And you know, when I was watching television and seeing what was happening in Parliament, you know what came to mind? It seemed to me that I was watching a bunch of primary school boarding school children protesting over too much pepper in their soup in the dining hall. It didn't look like Parliament House to me. It looked like some dining hall scene in a primary boarding school. Students protesting about insufficient sugar in their cocoa. Incredible. You understand? And they think that they should go. They are bluffing on top. They are boycotting sessions. They are holding press conferences. They are not even ashamed. Can you believe it? These guys are not ashamed. They don't care. They are wearing their suits and addressing the media and making foolish claims about minor damage and so on. I can't believe it. You know, and then, last week, somehow, I don't know what happened, they probably met and decided that this reference to them as micro-minority is something which they shouldn't accept. So now, they are referring to themselves as mighty minority. A clear contradiction in terms. Mighty minority and so on. What is this joke? A vetting process is going on. The minority has the right to participate or not to participate. It doesn't stop the work of the committee for as long as there's a quorum. How should it stop the work of the committee? There's a committee of investigation, the minority says, we are not comfortable with it, we are walking out. How does that stop the work of the committee? The issue is whether or not there's a quorum. And if there's a quorum, business must go on. So what if government presents its budget and this tiny micro minority decides to boycott Parliament? You mean the NDC with its over 180 members will wait for them? What is happening? I mean, the majority, does it understand its mission? The people of Ghana are not fools. The people of Ghana voted this way because they wanted business done in a certain manner. The people of Ghana voted emphatically for the NDC because they want change rapidly. They gave them the authority to do things. And if they cannot exercise that authority will be taken from them. Sure. If we go to an election and we give you more than 180 seats, and you cannot use that 180 seats, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. And the next election, we must take the 180 seats from you and give you 137 so that you go and bargain. You want to bargain. You are still caught up in this hang parliament, philosophy, hang parliament things and so. Go ahead and do that, and we will give you a hang parliament. What is this? I can't believe it. I mean, some of the things that happen in parliament, Master, is beyond comprehension. Read the standing orders of parliament. I'm not the one to interpret it and so on. We go for an election. And you have a situation in which there's a hung parliament of some sort. You understand? But the opposition appears to have the edge. In order to offset that edge, the speaker actually rules that an independent member of parliament can act as a member of parliament of the New Patriotic Party. It doesn't make sense. Show me how that makes sense. When the same speaker, getting to the end of the lifespan of that parliament, rules that if you are independent and you declare for a political party, you ought to go home. Where is the consistency? What happened at the time simply was that we had a new situation in parliament which could not be covered by the existing standing orders. You understand? The standing orders which dictated that things should be done according to majority, the formula of majority versus minority and so on. So what needed to be done was to amend the standing orders to reflect the reality of parliament at the time. And then we chose the lazy option that no matter what, we should have a majority and we should have a minority. So now, instead of caucus, we're using words like group and so on. What is this? But that's what we did. And emboldened them. So that at the point when they even have, I think, 87 seats or so, they can call themselves super minority and mighty minority. Very soon, I'm sure they'll be calling themselves supersonic minority. What is this? Incredible. You understand? And is there any wonder why they react so very badly when they are called the micro minority? You know this lady who had an altercation with Anna Domprenzo. I'm sitting back and I'm wondering, what's the basis of that? All the woman did was to refer to them as micro minority, and tempers were flared. Are you not a micro minority? You are. You see, they themselves oftentimes refer to the period when they had just a little over 60 seats in Parliament and how they quickly came back, you know, and so on, and ultimately won elections in 2000. But my brother, my sister, look at the caliber of members of Parliament at the time. You're talking about J.H. Mensah. You understand? Look at the caliber of members of Parliament. Look at the conduct of debates. They were not disruptive. They were engaged they had constructive engagement and so on, and won the respect and admiration of the people of Ghana. Today's Parliament, this micro minority, how is it endearing itself to the population? And what are the prospects that this micro minority can at some point endear itself to the population? And no wonder, everywhere you go, every station you listen to and so on, people are hungering for the era of Che Mensah Bonsu. Everywhere you go, within the New Patriotic Party, outside the New Patriotic Party, and everybody say, well, if Che Mensah Bonsu was there, this is not what we'll be seeing. That's an indication of a public perception that standards are falling, that there is massive deterioration and so on. Something is very strange. This idea of setting up a committee to investigate what had happened and so on went before the plenary session of Parliament. A majority was there, the independents were there, the micro minority was there. They raised no objection. The next day when the committee begins work, they said, we don't agree, we are boycotting. What is this? No consistency. No consistency whatsoever. And it's very deeply worrying. You understand? Now, for me, the speaker had to act immediately when these matters unfolded. I mean, every and any responsible speaker needed to do something to assuage public feelings, to give the public the confidence that something will be done to rectify the situation, you know, to restore dignity to Parliament and so on. So I was not surprised at all that the speaker immediately suspended a number of people and took some measures and so on. It was important to do something to assuage the anger of the population. I am not the custodian of parliamentary rules and regulations, okay? So I'm not even going to challenge the claim that some of the things that he did may have been an offense to the rules of Parliament. I'm not going to challenge that, be that as it may. But the speaker in that moment had to do something. After having announced those measures, it was important for the parliamentary leadership, if they found something wrong with that, to sit together, to think with the speaker, and to do the right things which will restore public confidence in Parliament, which will restore some dignity to Parliament and so on. What we saw is shocking. I mean, first of all, you had the minority leader apologize profusely to the speaker, to Parliament itself, and to the people of Ghana, and to admit that what happened was completely embarrassing and so on. And then the next moment, he's justifying what happened. I mean, look, there's a lot of work to be done. Lots and lots of work to be done. If you take the cocoa sector alone, it's frightening. I mean, I've heard statements that cocoa is the mainstay of the economy. I reject that, but that's said by economists and so on. So we can live with that. Last year, cocoa production fell by more than 50%. Galamsey is destroying our cocoa farms like nothing. Okay? The new Minister for Agriculture has disclosed that this year, Cocoa Marketing Board will have to pay a debt of more than, 53 billion cedis? Thereabout. That is not the total level of indebtedness of Cocoa Board. That's how much money we have to pay this year alone. I know people who have been to university, graduated from the universities and so on, who are working. And Massa, their take-home pay is less than 2,000 cedis a month. That's a national catastrophe. I travel around this country, I see the state of the roads. Frightening. It will cause accidents, it will affect the lifespan of our vehicles, and so on. I mean, we heard stories of the starvation in secondary schools. The fact that we are feeding secondary school students with unwholesome meals and so on. You know, you talk about women, pregnant women, and the conditions under which they give birth. Master, everywhere you turn, we are facing disaster. This imposes a responsibility and duty on our parliament, especially the majority side. Now, if they want to dance around in circles to please the micro minority and not get things done, it's up to them. The other day, I was talking to a member of parliament, and a member of parliament from Wali. I was actually talking to him on television. And I was saying that there have been many instances where parliament has struggled with having a quorum. And that there were a number of instances where if the micro minority had withdrawn, parliamentary business could not be carried out. That's a problem.
It happened yesterday.
That's a huge problem. We vote for 100, more than 180 of you, and you don't go to work? Such that the business of parliament is dependent on the micro minority. My goodness, what are you doing there? That's the problem. The majority must be responsible, it must work. And one of the duties that the majority must do is to show their faces inside parliament. What is so important for them that they don't go to parliament? Said that yesterday, parliament had to adjourn because of the question of quorum. 180 something of you? What's wrong with you? Master, we better take this country serious. Because the masses of our people take their country very seriously. And they believe that it is possible to change their destiny. For now, they've replaced that destiny in the hands of a political party. If that political party is not able to protect their interests, to work for their interests, to uplift their standard of living and so on, they will take it from that political party. And who says that we have a duty, we have a responsibility to maintain this bourgeois democratic order? Who says that? Who says that it is given? Who says that there are no other forms of government apart from this arrangement we have today? You sit there and be playing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And well, that concludes the discussion on what is happening in Parliament. But just a few comments from those of you who are joining us via Facebook. Magdo says, Sena, good morning. Please, the MPP led by Afenyomakin, supported by Anodon Press, should know that they are not men that the rest of the men in. They are not more men than the rest of the men in the country. The comment made by Dompre is a sign of cowardice, and if he likes, he should bring it on. It is an apology of a member of Parliament. Send that from Alhaji. There's Eric Osel says Afenyo is immature. He lacks leadership skills. He thinks screaming and ranting and leadership skills. He makes his predecessor, Chairman Sabonsu, look like a sage. Kofi Simon, the speaker, he says the speaker must be changed, that the future has rotten from the head. Seidu Shaibu is joining us. The parliamentarians should know that the moment they enter the chamber, there's no more you are my friend and you are my brother that they used to say. They can say that outside Parliament. Ghanaians are angry day by day. Neil Ate is joining us, says, I think the NDC government and the party executives are scared of the MPP micro-minority MPs for reasons best known to them. The NDC are behaving strangely in government as if they are in the minority. Richard Baklam says, sitting back and observing all the drama in Parliament of Ghana, I certainly believe that the media is giving too much coverage to the micro-minority, and this is encouraging and massaging their egos. The media should stop attending their press conferences and other activities, and this will calm them down. I certainly don't know how the media works. Anyway, Kofi Samuel says, I agree with Master Kwesi Pratt. The NDC gurus and MPs are just annoying with the supporters. I think they think we are fools to go out and queue, vote for them, and misbehave. Next time, their wives and children will go out and vote for them. There's more. Okay, there's more from. Let me sell the glasses. What is wrong in Parliament? It's a weak majority caucus. Nothing more. Otherwise, we can't see 88 caucus holding the 183 plus 4 majority to ransom. There's Charles Thompson's Kwesi Pratt, always factual, objective, and assertive when it comes to discussing matters of national importance. What a remarkable man. Nasel Soa says that, Mr. Committee, please, I don't understand why the NDC majority, still believe in these MPP people. The MPP have said and done everything for you not to believe or trust them. Why wait on them? We need you guys to stand your ground, not just having the name majority with no use. It's a big shame watching and listening to you guys all the time. I guess you watched him till the end and his conclusion. Perhaps that will change the way they approach the minority moving forward. Okay, Charles Thompson seems to know you quite well. Says you had a high-profile job in the UK and was highly respected. He chose to become member of Parliament. Well, he's just joined us. We're just discussing Parliament. We'll move on to another discussion that is very, very important. What happens to our education sector? President John Dramani Mahama made a promise that is followed through. So a committee has been set up to plan and organize the forum. The forum will discuss education in general, not free SHS. Everybody think everything is about free SHS. It's a forum that will discuss everything about education. How do we move forward? A major review of our education. And I'll start this time around with the Deputy Majority Leader on this issue. And because of my time, you have 10 minutes, then we'll go around.
Well, I think during the campaign, His Excellency, the President, said that obviously when he gets elected, we will look at this free education, SHS, which really wasn't working well. And it was clear for everyone to see. I mean, I think some of us, even from a numbers standpoint, had looked at it and realized that it is not something that in the long run will be sustainable. And it was going to put an enormous pressure on the taxpayer eventually if we are to fund our free education, by the way we were doing it. I think this is enshrined in our constitution, that obviously when things get better as an economy, which is obviously also subjective and relative, we should be able to have, a free education, which I think it's something that as a country and as any nation, you are going to be able to improve as a country when you have your good size of your population, especially the young, educated. And when we say education, we are not only talking about going to university, but having a decent education that will, improve your own skills to have a meaningful contribution to the society that we're trying to build together. So there's no qualms about it. I think the difference then was that, as somebody say, we should do it now. It's just like independence. Somebody say independent now, somebody say let's take our time. But we're all looking forward to the day that we'll be able to have the free education. My take on the free education from the very onset is that we have seen many models elsewhere. I mean, we are not the first to basically, have this program of having our people educated free, especially the kind of country that we have. Our people are still relatively, below the poverty line. And there are brilliant, kids who otherwise will not be able to go to school if they don't get, such opportunities to be able to have free education. Free education is not new. I mean, aside from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah did it, in the northern part, of the country. And we've seen the results today. So everyone, and most of us are believers that, look, if this thing is done, to be able to educate a good cross-section of our country, our young people, then that is also a tool to get the country out of poverty and improve its economic life. So we have experimented it by those who said, let's have it now, which one school of thought will agree that, yes, I mean, which generation are you going to mess? If you have decided we should have free education, yes, let's have it now, rather than to skip another generation while you are putting your thoughts together. Because we've been educating our kids, not today. We have tried different educational models and reducing number of years, increasing them and all that. And that itself has created, some kind of a mess. I mean, you can argue that yes, by starting free education now, or when it was done, we've been able to get a significant number of our children, to go to school, and they have reached somewhere, which maybe not now, but in the near future will be a plus. But what sort of education have we given our people or the children? What is the quality of it? It's not just being educated, but the quality of education. And that goes from nutrition and everything. What you eat, as the scientists have proven, helps your ability to be able to absorb and to learn. When you look at the type of food that our children are eating in their dormitories, it's quite frightening. In my days as a student at the Southern College, I told you we're eating poorly. But to look at what kids are eating today, I say that we were privileged. In some of you wouldn't even take some of the food given to the kids, even if it were to be a medicine. You wouldn't. I mean, medicine is usually supposed to be better. When you look at that food, you wouldn't. And the things that we have gone through, or we have heard happening in the schools, and things that have been changed today. Food is being centralized in terms of its purchase. Tomorrow, this and all that. Everything is completely in a mess. So we have a free education in a chaotic system. And the result will only be one. It will come to a halt. And if you have this kind of system, and if you want to compare such systems, and not necessarily to education, but any place where you do this free thing and you have to pump a lot of money in it, it becomes an avenue for corruption. So you realize that if you look at our budget year after year, the cost of this free education is going up, and it's going up exponentially. And we don't have limitless resources, and most of these things are funded from tax. So we've got to look at even the funding of education itself. You know, we had I remember days of Professor Mills, when we had opportunity to have conversations, with him about his vision on education and all that, and what we should use the nation resources for, especially the oil that we became endowed with and became an oil-producing nation and all that. That maybe some of the natural resources that we have should be actually used in funding education rather than tax, because the tax is a difficult one. If you want to use tax to fund your education, it means that taxes will go up, because the tax revenue comes from the people. So if you are not collecting enough taxes, then you should increase the taxes or widen the tax net. We've talked about widening the tax net, and it never works. Because the taxes that we should even collect in a formal system, we are not doing it. We do lazy man taxes. When in this day and age, when most monies are made from technology and digitalization and all that, we choose to, impose taxes on e-levy, like a low-hanging fruit, instead of going for the actual, and we're still talking about widening the tax net. When a lot of things in this country today are done through technology that can be taxed, and other countries are doing it. It's not something that you have to reinvent the wheel. It's there. You've got to get the right softwares and the right people to do all this. So the whole education needs to be looked at. Now, you hear people, even Kevin Franklin himself at the time said that, do you expect him to pay, to get a free education? There's something in other places where these systems are applied called means testing. So you've got to look at a system where you can probably mean test people to make sure that whether any can be done. Okay, maybe we don't have the systems here, but if you want to go that way, then in the long run you should be able to build that. Because at the end of the day, people who can even afford to send their kids to school and pay their school fees will get poor education for their children, because they are not allowed to pay, and therefore their children with other people's children are going to suffer this poor quality of education. Look, the unemployment we have in the country is not only as a result of not having jobs for people to do, but not having people who are actually qualified to take certain jobs. They go to an interview and performance is abysmal. So that is also an issue to address, not just having a free education. So I think President Mahama is right that after having anything you do, you get to a point, you have to review it. And these guys were so stubborn in reviewing the free education. It doesn't mean you're going to cancel it. President Mahama has been here for 30 days. Nobody has heard him talking about cancelling free education, which was the propaganda they were doing. To review it and look at the way forward. How should free education itself be funded? That's number one. Should we fund it through tax alone, or there should be a mix of tax and natural resources, or we should look at some other way of funding it, or are we going to borrow? Two bad ways to fund free education is to use tax revenue alone or to do borrowing. Because these numbers, as I said, are exponential numbers. So a time will come that you have to borrow too much, or you have to tax your people so much to do it. And we have to improve. The word here is quality of the free education that we are giving to our people, and make sure we can actually afford it and can fund it properly.
Okay.
And that's what I think this whole team that's been put together and what will come subsequently is supposed to address and make sure that free education has come to stay. It's enshrined in our constitution. Somebody said, let's do it now. It becomes an obligation for all of us to make sure that we get a quality of that free education that we all want.
Thank you. This is Dennis Akwete. The NDC majority is displaying a holier than the Pope disposition, and we are not enjoying it. Now the minority is referring to it as a so-called super majority. Can you imagine? So sad to say the least. Always ends with shalom. Dennis, thank you. There's Papa Bisio says, hi Sena. It's surprising my people don't know who makes up the MPP. As for me, I know them since their grandfather's time. That's during Nkrumah's regime, leading to the coup that toppled him, resulting to my late mom, Madam Regina Alara, running away to live in Nigeria. Uncle Kwesi knows her very well. She was very close to the legend Kojoboshi, relatives of Uncle Kwesi Pratt. With all the above experiences, I came out boldly during the late President Mills regime to tell him to stop the father for all policy. I even went further to say, just give them a day to rule, then see the results. I became an enemy within my own party. Today I'm happy my people have realized their big mistakes. Don't spare any corrupt, wicked MPP element. Recover our loose and jail them, period. That's Papa Bisio who sent that comment. Lara.
So, before I even go on the education issue, I think on Tuesday they'll be voting for the Council of State.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, yeah. So there's this young man in Water Region, he has a number of foundations, and Kwamega Tanko. I wish him all the best.
Yeah.
I wish him all the best. I hope that his message is accepted by the people and they vote him to that high office. Having done that, I think His Excellency came on the back of a reset agenda that had the massive support of the people of Ghana. And one of the areas that needs serious reset, like the Deputy Majority Leader said, is our education system, and largely the issues that needs to be looked at there includes how we fund education. I think I must add infrastructure, because I can't believe that at this time we still have schools under trees. There are still schools under trees, and that area that needs to be considered seriously is even the syllabus itself. Over the past 8 years, we had our education system peddling an untruth as to the position of certain individuals, the David Akwe's position, and fundamental untruth in factual untruth. So the syllabus itself also has to be looked at, and then the syllabus especially needs to be tailored specifically to our needs as Ghanaians, and is including the issue of patriotism, which for me is a fundamental issue here. We don't seem to be patriotic. We simply don't love our country. We've driven especially over the last year, we've driven a very dangerous regionalism, what's called agenda. Meanwhile, right from the word go, the focus of Ghanaians was to create that one country where we are all Ghanaians first, before. So, our educational system, I think the forum as it needs to, and I'm glad that the president has chosen to do same by way of a forum to attract all minds, all ideas, to discuss the issues that our education system are plagued with. I think the teacher training allowance is also an issue for a country who, in terms of how much tax we're giving. I think it's about 13% of our GDP. 13 stand to be corrected, but it's certainly lower than even the West African threshold. For government to be taking everything on their plate. Government is taking everything on their plate. You don't have money. You're also taking everything on your plate. Listen, a serious conversation needs to be had on how we are going to fund our education if we are supposed to make the best out of it. I think, and very extensive submission, because immediately you anchor how you finance your education on your tax and on borrowing, then you are finished. Especially in our country, when you take secondary schools, the old students they do so much for their schools. Can we find a way of finding a strategy where we can use some of their resources to deal with some of the funding issues of the schools? We have a private-public partnership act. Can we also? I'm not saying we should go that way, but I'm just throwing out there. I think that's the essence of the forum. Can we also consider that in how we fund what's called finance our education. Because this whole fancy chess thing, as good as it sounds, it was, in my view, an agenda by somebody who wanted to be president, who didn't have a plan. You understand? So let me throw the free SHS out there and hook the people of Ghana by it without a plan. Without a plan. But everybody in Ghana, every child in Ghana needs to be educated. So yes, I think it's a call in the right direction. We need to have that forum to deal with the serious issues that, because we go to even very capitalist societies like the US, and I think there is a bigger capitalist society like an education that is free. Secondary school, high school, they call it high school. In fact, after your the daycare from primary is free. How do they fund? That's how important education is. How do they fund it? They have a model, a proper decentralized education system. They take their property tax, and so central government doesn't really fund primarily their education. It's the district that deals with it. There are so many models. I think if you go across the world, there are so many models that are used to sustain granting of free education. We need to sit down, get the experts, all everybody, and find a model that suits a peculiar situation. But the problem that education system faces is not just about the funding, but also about the structure itself. About the structure, the syllabus, the purpose, the focus of our education. We need to have a discussion, because I went to SS. When I went to SS1, we had the lower 6, we had the what's called. We did 9 subjects. By the time I finished, I think the subjects had been reduced to about 7 or 8. Then we went to 4 years, came to 3 years. There's so much confusion within our education system. Also in terms of the syllabus, that needs to be seriously looked at. As in, I can't understand in the life of me how all of us as Ghanaians could sit down for people to attempt to alter factual issues in the history of this country through education. Factual issues. Yes, it has generated a whole another, and I'm glad, the David Ankwadi and something that I don't think I can repeat. I don't want to repeat, but all these are born out of factual inaccuracies in our educational system. The politicians think that they can use our education system to advance a certain argument. We need to have a forum where we agree on the syllabus, where we agree on the focus and the structure. Also, you go across the length and breadth of the country, and you see, I saw videos of students having what's called a pigsty as their classroom, some chicken. So clearly, there's a fundamental lack of infrastructure so far as education is concerned in this country. We need to have a comprehensive plan. How are we going to deal with the infrastructure issue in our schools? You understand? Because our constitution says that we want equal opportunity for all Ghanaians. Equal opportunity for all Ghanaians. You understand? Now, what that means is that, I'll use my school. See, the structures of Achimota School. We should to create a system where we have similar structures across. Because if I, a Ghanaian, and when we went to Achimota School, all we used to pay was the boarding fee. I think that's what the academic user fee was concerned. It was free. Yeah. You understand? So why should I enjoy those facilities and another child somewhere will have to go to school in what's called? So we need a serious conversation there too. And then how we also fund all these training, what's called teacher training and all those issues in line with our position, our financial and economic position. If it means loan, go and take a loan, I don't see why there should be an issue about that, because if government cannot fund it and there's a loan system, because like I'm saying, in very advanced countries, they also have loan systems, and you understand. So when we talk about education, about health, about the social benefits of government, there are things that we shouldn't play with, and we must have a non-partisan, patriotic discussions and find lasting solutions and create a structure where different parties will come and for their own political agenda will not attempt to alter same so that the factual issues or same just to advance their own parochial interest. So it's a call in the right direction. I support the president and I'll call on all Ghanaians to support and let us all together solve this very fundamental problem that we are consistently playing with.
Thank you. Two comments. This is about Samogobo in offense. So the MPP is not ready to learn from opposition. They will be in opposition for a longer time. Ghana is a serious country and will not allow this MPP corrupt government to come to power again. That's Abbas who sent that. There's Masol Akpabli also East who says this current NDC majority is gradually becoming a white elephant and is becoming very annoying. Ghanaians gave you 180 MPs, yet you can't contain this micro minority led by a corrupt leader, and to make matters worse, most of them failed to come to parliament to form a quorum to do government business. Is this what we queued under the sun amidst so much frustration to vote for them? Ghanaians are watching killing how they are playing Mr. Nice Guy with this unruly and arrogant MPP guys in parliament, and they'll punish them if they don't change their attitude forthwith. And that's thank you. This Ambassador Sampialo says, I'm convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that some MPs need to be certified for mental competence in accordance with the requirements of the Constitution. Otherwise, how? Anyway, Ambassador.
Thank you, Sena. I'm very happy that His Excellency the President has set up this Committee on Education. I've always said that our education needs to be looked at again. The whole structure, syllabus, as my brother Andrew said, everything. Because if you look at it as a whole generally, it looks like we're just producing graduates. We produce graduates on the SS level, we produce graduates on the tertiary level, even on the professional level, the training colleges, we just produce graduates without any quality to it. So we are producing the numbers, but the quality is very bad. So from the basic level, the medium of training, or teaching, which is English, somebody finishes JSS, SSS, and they can't even express themselves. How is that person even going to be able to understand the question, exam set, to be able to pass? So you meet SS graduates and they speak bad English and they think it's funny, and people make jokes about it, they think it's funny to speak it, but it reflects badly on the kind of education that you've had. Because if you finish SS way back, I'm of the O-level, A-level, GCE, if you finish those days, even back in those days, middle school certificates were knowledgeable and could speak well. They could write letters. They were in the civil service. O-level, you could get a job with it. A-level, you could get a job with it. But somehow, along the way, everything went downhill. So it is very important that our education is reset. In fact, the MPP destroyed not only our education, they destroyed the economy, everything, our water bodies. So everything is going to be reset to take us back to 8 years ago when we handed over to them. Now, during the period of the SHS, the Minister of Education changed the syllabus and ordered new textbooks. It took him more than 4 years to have those textbooks delivered to the children. And I'm wondering how that minister expected, the former Minister of Education, he expected the kids to study. So the teacher had one copy that he had to use, and the children had no access to those textbooks. A new syllabus that had been introduced, they had no access to the textbooks. What happened? What we saw was that they were not being taught anything. But at the end of the year, in their third or fourth, the SHS is how many years? 3 years.
Yes.
In the third year, they went to buy past questions, $33 million, and distributed to the schools. So it became more of like learn, chew, and pour, and pass, without the children going through any form of real education. And I was consistently amazed at this Minister of Education because I personally know that he owns a school in California, a chartered school funded by government. And I know that he will dare not, practice what he came to practice here in Ghana with how he mismanaged our education. But of course, I don't blame him because the media were hailing him as, oh, he's doing well, and he had the cameras on him all the time. But the real issue at hand, he wasn't handling. Look, he even messed up the trimester and semester. He tried to bring the American system of semester into our, what we know, the British system where we've been practicing for so long, trimester, and there was a whole confusion. So right now we don't even know whether we are doing trimester or semester. So those are some of the issues that the committee must look at. The kids with the red, gold, green traffic lights thing that they did, the double track. I have a nephew who got admitted December 5th last year. He came home in 2 weeks. First semester was over. He stayed home till about March or April. So you stay in school for 2 weeks and then you come and stay home for 4 months or 3 months so that the next group can go to school. I mean, what kind of education is that? So a semester or a calendar, 2 semesters make 9 months. 3 trimesters make 9 months. Yet we had our children staying in school for less than 3 months for 1 academic year. And within that 1 academic year, as a parent, do you ask yourself that what have they taught my child in school? Because I know that the educational calendar is 9 months in a year. So if you have your child staying at home, staying 9 months at home and 3 months at school, then you should ask yourself a question and question the education system that government is providing. The fact that it's free doesn't mean that you should accept everything that comes with it. So it's very important that we have this discussion. And it was a promise by His Excellency John Mahama. He also said that, like my big brother here said, he said we'll set aside a fund instead of just relying on taxes. He said he's going to set aside a fund to take care of purely SHS. And that fund is going to take care of their feeding and everything that is connected to the SHS. The SHS, was started by His Excellency John Mahama, but he thought that let's put in comprehensively. He thought that let's put in the infrastructure before we move. But we all saw how this government, the old government, implemented it and made a mess of it. Now they come out and really I don't want to use the word useless, but they can't do anything. So you are an SHS graduate, basically you can't do anything. Then you move on to tertiary. With a tertiary one, I think that the whole cost structure must be re-looked at. If you look at Legon, if you are not able to get law or business administration, they will give you something like archaeology, zoology. I mean, do we even have a zoo in Ghana? What are you going to do with zoology? What are you going to do with archaeology? Do we have like a special? Are you in Egypt? I know they specialize in archaeology, or in America I know they do. So if you go out there too, but the tertiary, the universities determine what you should study. So if the university says that the quota for law is full, and you didn't do too well, so we are putting you in archaeology, a subject that you have no use for, a subject that when you finish, you complete. You've wasted 4 years studying, you will come out as an unemployed graduate. So we have to look at the current trends of where we are now as a nation. The whole, not just Ghana, globally, what we need, you understand? So that we incorporate new subjects, new topics into our syllabus, into our whatever we are doing at the universities. And then we will be able to churn out graduates that will be useful to the society. So literally, what they will tell you is that I recall that when I got my first degree, they said, you whatever they give you, take. And it's a typical Ghanaian attitude. The member will be whatever they give you, take. When you finish, you can go and pursue a professional course. But in other jurisdictions, it's not the case. Whatever you want to pursue is what you will get if you qualify. So the university determines your future by giving you a course. So the committee must look at this. They have to get rid of some of the old courses that they give people that are not beneficial to them, and then introduce new courses that would be beneficial to them when they complete. So now, even if you have a first degree, it is worthless. It is worthless because you cannot use it to work. You have to now go and get a master's degree and get a PhD. So we have a lot of young graduates and even old people who are back in school. Look, the number of people who have masters and PhD in this country, I've never seen some before. Everybody, when you meet them, you meet a 45-year-old man, 50-year-old man, so what are you doing? Because he hasn't got a job, he will say, I'm schooling. But at 45, 50, you should be working and taking care of your family. But everybody is schooling. Everybody in Ghana is schooling. Everybody in Ghana is schooling. And why is that so? Because the first degree that they went to do was worthless to them. And there's competition. So if you don't pursue it, then you are stuck. Then you have how do you call it? I remember with regards to the syllabus, when we were in law school, there was something we called grandfather notes. So these notes, because the syllabus is the same, hasn't changed over the years. We all will come and use the grandfather notes. So we are not learning anything new. What they taught in the 80s is what we are all learning. The 2024s are also learning. So if we change the syllabus, people will begin to, it will be more of practical learning than just getting somebody's grandfather notes to chew and pass. So for me, I'm very happy because the quality of education, if this committee gets it right, and we should find a way that when another government comes, whatever the committee decides, we should find a way to keep it, so that we will not be playing, we will not be gambling with our education. That this one comes and changes, this one comes and changes it. Look at school feeding, for instance. School feeding. Baumia told us that school feeding was going to be digitalized. I mean, I don't understand what it even means by school feeding. School feeding. But they were feeding the kids with expired goods, food. They were feeding the kids with expired goods. And when we took over this January, I think I read that the schools were saying that there was no food for the kids to even report to school. But His Excellency found a way and they went back to school. So there has to be a way to ensure that when children are in school, we don't have a situation where they will go starving, or there will be no food, or people will threaten not to supply because of lack of funding. This year, WAEC after the exams, WAEC refused to release results. They resume because Ministry of Education had not paid them. But these kids pay exam fees. So who took the money? What happened? So there has to be more responsibility when it comes to our children. We shouldn't play with our children's education.
Ambassador, thank you. Thank you. This is Wills born in Sweden, who says this. I think it's about time the NDC changes its game plan in Parliament. Their current game plan is not helping. It sympathizes Ghanaians at all. How on earth could 88 parliamentarians overcome 183 parliamentarians? This is a matter that will the debate will continue on for many ways to come. Hadi from Pig Farm says, good morning. Obviously, the MPP will never change. Anytime they come to power, Mother Ghana goes back 20 years. Nanado was more interested in becoming a president and accepting the responsibilities of a president. Nanado has troubled Ghanaians so much that even chiefs are afraid to sit down and greet. Indeed, Nanado is the only president who has disappointed the past, disappointed the president, and disappointed the future. Thank you very much, Hadi, for that comment. Comrade?
Well, I think that it's important to always state the fundamental when you're discussing education. Now, education, simply put, is the means by which or through which the current generation transfers knowledge and skills to the next generation. And if you look at education from this perspective, it becomes so very important for our survival. You understand? Because you're talking about skills, you're talking about knowledge and so on. Very essential for our survival. Now, the setting up of a brainstorming mechanism on education is part of the promises that the NDC made in the 2024 campaign. And all of us would insist that the NDC keeps its promise. It does appear that this promise will be kept. And if this promise is going to be kept, my advice to the new Minister of Education is to shut up for now. Shut up. Yes, we haven't had the consultation. We haven't had the debate. And measures are being announced in such a manner as to confuse the population. This is not a teacher training allowance. Everybody interprets it in a different way because it was so poorly communicated. Yes, sir. For some, it means that teacher training allowance are going to be cancelled. For some, it means that it's not going to be cancelled, and so confusion. Why? So let's have the forum. Let the forum make the recommendations that it ought to make. Let government look at those recommendations and come up with a blueprint. We've carried on the debate about education in this country to the extent that today, many people think that free education is the invention of the New Patriotic Party. It is not. But it's the manner in which we've carried out this conversation. You read the first 5-year development plan that the Nkrumah government introduced. You read the 7-year development plan. Free education is the hallmark of the National Development Plan, has always been. Indeed, it took the Busia government to reverse it. I recall, I was a kid then, I think I was in secondary school Form 1 or so. When this lecturer at the University of Ghana, Ebo Hatchful, confronted Busia on the campus of the Legon campus over the Busia regime's plans to reverse free education and the ostentation of the then government and so on. Now, when you mention free education, it's as if it's the invention of the New Patriotic Party and Nana Akufo-Addo. You know, something is wrong. Even in recent times, the first political party that I remember after 1992 insisting on free education in its manifesto was the Convention People's Party. It was not the New Patriotic Party. The first political party that actually costed free education, costed it, showed how it was going to generate the resources and so on, was Dr. Indon's PPP.
Yeah.
You understand? The first political party that actually started implementing free education is the National Democratic Congress, when it came with the progressive approach and so on. And yet, somehow, we've allowed this discussion and debate to be conducted in such a manner as to make it look like there's an invention of Nana Akufo-Addo and the New Patriotic Party. Look, I think we should go beyond scoring party political points and begin to look at education for what it is. A mechanism, an instrument which is so vital for the survival of the human race, not just Ghana, the whole human race. Our survival depends on education. It depends on the acquisition of skills. It depends on the interpretation and exploitation of knowledge to deal with the harder problems that confront mankind. And education is so very vital that we need to take it seriously. And therefore, we need to take this forum seriously. And therefore, promises which were made by political parties and so on also need to be kept. Finish.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. We have a few minutes. Of course, on Thursday, the Socialist Movement of Ghana, as we advertised on the last show, actually did a night of tributes to the late Dr. David Pery. If you've been following this program for long enough, even within the contemporary history of the program, last year you would have seen Dr. David Pery on the show. It was only this year that we haven't had him on the show. Unfortunately, passed on before we could invite him on the show this year. And it was quite interesting listening to the people who knew Dr. David Percy and what he stood for. So I guess all three panelists have all met Dr. David Percy on the show a couple of times. I'll start with you just briefly.
In my short time going to the media, it's one of the few shows where most of the time I leave here educated. It's not just about me, what I can miss, but I leave here educated. And one of the reasons is the caliber of people you bring here, and one of them is Dr. Percy. I wouldn't say I know him personally, but at least I've had the opportunity, in fact the privilege of having shared this platform with him a number of times, and the strength of his conviction is one thing that stands out for me. There's a man who really has a conviction, and that conviction underpins his life and his communication and everything. And personally, the people I really respect are people who behave, who act based on a strong conviction. I may disagree with that conviction, but I respect that conviction, and Dr. Percy was. And then the depth of his intellect, you understand, you talk to him and then you leave, and he causes you to have a deep thinking about a lot of things yourself, you believe in, and he was a massive plus to the show. He was a massive plus to the country. Because you want a country of men who are strong men, strong intellect, strong convictions. And I think when I heard that he had passed, it was devastating, and I think it's a massive loss to not just his family, but those of us who had just begun the process of knowing him. Especially in my case, I think I met him 3 weeks or 2 weeks before he had passed in court. Very healthy, very happy. Okay. Oh yeah, I met him. We had a brief chat, only to hear about 2 weeks ago that he is no more. As much as it's sad, I think we all need to celebrate him. We need to celebrate his intellect. We need to celebrate his conviction. And my prayer is that this country will have many more people like him. And like I'm saying, for me, it's not about whether I agree with your view or not, but the country is always better when we have men of conviction, strong intellect, and of courage, who are not afraid to let everybody know what they believe in. Because that's the only way in which we can foist a great nation. And I think Ghana will be worse off with this loss. May he so rest in peace.
Thank you. Ambassador.
Yeah. Oh, before I go, I wish my mom a happy birthday. Today is her birthday, so don't go.
Happy birthday to her.
Yeah. Dr. Percy, I met him on the show, and I was quite amazed at his depth of knowledge. I learned a lot from him. He would, I looked at him and I was like, hey, this man is like a walking encyclopedia or walking historian or something. He would tell the story and you would enjoy the story with dates and times and everything. And he was a great man. And I know that he loved the country so much, and he will really be missed. He will really be missed, and I send my condolences to his family, and may the good Lord keep his soul.
Leader.
I had an opportunity, also to meet him here. I think a couple of times.
Yes.
And I remember whether the last time or the first time I met him, I believe it was on 2 occasions. We sat in a sofa here, and he is a great conversationalist, really deep one. And he was basically a rare breed. And it's so sad to for him to also sort of pass on. But this life is a journey. You come and you contribute your quota, and then when the bell is rung, then you ought to go. So it's so sad, the type of person that, as I said, I didn't know him that much, but I really got engaged with him because he will engage you and you want to know more. We did exchange numbers that we're going to talk more, because I was really excited about things he was talking about, his intuition and everything. And may his soul rest in perfect peace. I think his job is done and he deserves the rest.
Yeah. Thank you. Comrade.
Well, I was so happy that we managed to organize this night of tributes, in memory of Dr. David Pery. And just the caliber of people who turned out, from all walks of life, and all of them related their experiences, with him. Some from his secondary school days, some from the days in London when he was doing his master's and PhD. Some related his life, on the farms, the university farms, where he was a lecturer and so on. And then some spoke about his political activity and so on. And in all of this, one thing was clear. He was a huge intellectual and extremely modest. I mean, I still can't put together, the different parts of his life. Pery was unbending. Completely unbending. We are going to have a meeting to discuss a problem. Pery comes to the meeting with his ideas already formulated. No matter what you say, Pery still leaves the meeting with his ideas, completely unbending. Now, to be that unbending and also to strike everybody as being modest is a skill that I haven't seen in any other human being.
That's right.
Because it takes a certain level of arrogance to be unbending. Now, Pery has no arrogance, and yet he's unbending. And I never saw him angry.
Yeah.
In all the time that I knew Pery, maybe over a period of about 40 years or more, never for once saw him angry. He could not be provoked. Pery was a very extraordinary human being. Very extraordinary. The most outstanding thing about him is his modesty, his intellectual capacity, and of course, his friend Chuchufoku described in a way that I cannot say on television. You were there, completely unyielding, completely unbending, and yet, you don't find him as being arrogant and so on. He made us, all of us who worked with him, who associated with him, he made us better socialists. You understand? Because of his unyielding nature, you always had to return to principle. And that was the role that he played. And it's a pity that he passed out in the very bizarre circumstances under which he passed away. You can only wish the family, extend our condolences to the family, and when the time comes, I'm told that the funeral rites will be on the 28th and 29th of March.
Okay.
When the time comes, we will all be there, to give the red salute to a comrade who lived his life as a comrade and contributed so much to uplifting, to raising high the banner of socialism in Ghana.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This Ambassador Sampiali says, we celebrate the life of and legacy of David Pery, a deep thinker and consummate socialist. Your tireless commitment to social justice and equality has left a lasting impact on countless lives. As a pillar to the Alhaji And Alhaji program, your dedication and influence will be deeply missed. Rest in peace, David Pery. Your legacy will continue to inspire and motivate others to strive for a more just and equitable society.
You know, Sena, I mean, look, I'm going to make a confession. And every time I was coming on Alhaji And Alhaji and I heard that Percy was on the panel, I was so happy.
Yeah.
You know why? Because he made me look so modest. Because he would take the extreme position, you understand, and make me look good. So I was always happy to be on the same panel with him because he said all the things that others can say and make you sound very, correct.
Yeah, quite interesting.
In a very calm manner.
Very calm. Yeah. And he always took everybody by surprise with the way he comes in. So you are having a conversation and Percy starts and everybody is wondering, you get shocked by the kind of views he would express, and you become the better for it if you listen to him. Well, that's the Dr. David Percy. Of course, we'll communicate the phone arrangements in due time. In due time. One of the things he fought for, famously, is that if he was around, he said one of the things we were going to fight the NDC for was the reintroduction of history into our syllabus.
As a standalone.
Yes, as a standalone subject, not incorporated in any other thing, because he felt that the way we teach history allows people to get away with past crimes or set stage to commit new ones. That was one of the views he shared. And I remember one time when the question was asked, when would you graduate? Because he was always called a student of history and politics. And his response was simple, that you never stop. History is an ongoing exercise. You can never graduate from the learning of history. That history happens every day. And so is politics. Those two topics, you can never ever graduate from doing it. His doctorate, everybody thought was in politics and history. No. Doc is not. His doctorate was not in that. His doctorate is in agriculture. So animal science specifically. Wow. So everybody thought it was history and politics. No. Wow. Yeah. Well, condolences to the family, and we're sad, but we celebrate the man who Dr. Percy was. And I would like to say a big thank you to Kwame Kwesi Prajini, who is General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. And thank you for putting that event together. And of course, lawyer Andrew Apia Dankwa, who is a member of the Movement for Change, a face I've become very used to. You are now spokesperson. Oh, congratulations. Spokesperson for the Movement for Change. They chose the right person for the job. Yes. They chose the right person for the job. And always wonderful to see Ambassador Zita Saba Benson. Nice to see you. Yeah. And leader. Now we get to call you leader. Deputy Majority Leader.
Experience. I'm trying to get used to it. People call me leader in Palma. I don't know who they call it.
You are in trouble though.
Well, it's Kweku George Riketsegan. The interesting thing is about leadership is that you usually expect people to be a bit more diplomatic, but the challenge with you is that you admit wrong when it is wrong. You're very frank about how you feel about things. And listening to you today, I realize that there's going to be a lot of clashes, but you never. Yes. Stay like that. Yes, stay like that. It helps. It helps.
Always served me well.
Yes.
We'll continue to do what we think is right for the country in whichever capacity, whichever area we find ourselves to serve your nation.
Well, wish you all the best. Of course, when your matter comes up, we'll talk about it. Well, I am Sena Nombo, and of course, we are talking about Kwame Tanko. When I saw his poster, I was like, hey, young man wants to be a member of the Council of State. Anyway, wish him all the best. It's to be nice to have views of young people on the Council of State. So we wish him all the best in the elections, and everybody who's contesting to be a member of the Council of the State this Tuesday. We are back same time next week with another edition of the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji And Alhaji. A big thank you to our affiliate stations across the country. Don't forget the show was live from the studios of Pan-African Television, live on Pan-African Television on our social media handles, and also, of course, live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM. Take care of yourself.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.